Metal and horror is a match made in hell.
We love scary movies, and you might too. And if you do, you want to check this list out.
Rock and roll will never die. At least not this Halloween.
Kicking it off with Trick or Treat. This is such a cheesy but really fun horror flick that stars the infamous Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne.
Not great actors.
No, not really. No. This movie is the ultimate Hollywood example of backward messages in metal music gone wrong. The film follows the character Eddie, a bully teenage boy who idolizes a heavy metal star named Sammy Kerr, who looks an awful lot like Tommy Lee from Motley Crue, by the way. He ultimately dies in a fire in the movie. The main character, devastated by the metal icon's death, discovers a mysterious LP that allows him to communicate with the deceased musician.
I actually have one of those LPs that can do that.
That'd be pretty sick. Yeah.
Well, it's not really a masterpiece of horror. Trick or Treat is definitely a nostalgic and enjoyable film that will definitely appeal to anybody who's really into 80s music, right here, and B-movie horror, right here. The film's soundtrack features the cult band Fastway, which is definitely a highlight of this movie. If you're looking for a fun and campy horror flick, you came to the right place. Trick or Treat is definitely worth checking out. Super campy, as we said, but it's just a blast to watch with friends.
If rock and roll is the devil's music, then Black Roses.
A similar movie, not quite as good, but it's still worth checking out, is Black Roses from 1988. This is a horror flick that, again, is super fucking campy, but you know what? There's some parts of it that I would call a little scary at times. It is an utterly bizarre concoction that's a must-see for any self-respecting horror fan. While the writing and the acting might be a bit rough around the edges, like that particularly really weird mirror scene, if you watch the movie, you'll know what I mean. The film's chilling premise and unique atmosphere is something that really sets it apart.
Imagine teens possessed by demonic forces lurking in metal music and killing their parents in gruesome ways. Yeah, it's plot that's both ridiculous and kind of terrifying at the same time. Here's a fun fact. Vincent Pastore, the future Sopranos star, is in this movie.
It's pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool. It's a quintessential 80s horror film that definitely goes beyond the typical slasher fare of the era. Again, soundtrack, 1988 Metal Blade Records. That's really cool.
Really awesome example of metal and horror. Perfect blend. Let's go for a little bit more modern with Deathgasm. This film is an absolute blast, dude. If you enjoy horror comedy, then this one is definitely for you. As someone who grew up playing in pretty shitty metal bands, this one totally hits home. Two bored teenage boys, Brody and Zach, escape their mundane lives by diving into the dark world of black magic. While trying to fit in with his new family, Brody meets the character Zach at a record store, and then they form the ultimate metal band, Deathgasm.
Together with their outcast friends, of course they have to be outcasts because nobody in metal bands are popular at all.
We don't ever fit in.
They stumble upon a mysterious piece of sheet music called The Black Hymn. Playing this song unleashes a terrifying demon named Aloth, who possesses the town's residents. Now, Deathgasm and a popular girl named Medina must band together to fight the demonic forces, stop the apocalypse, and save their town from destruction. It's just a ton of fun. You guys should check it out. We think you'll like it.
The character relationships are just the highlight of the film, in addition to the practical effects.
I am the Intercessor.
Now going back to old school, Rock and Roll Nightmare. Sometimes the bad horror movies are the best ones. I would argue most of the time the bad ones are the best ones. And this 3.8 score out of 10 on IMDb is no exception. The plot here is ridiculously stupid, where Satan has a farmhouse showdown with the lead singer of a heavy metal band. It's a direct-to-video horror movie directed by John Fasano. I don't care what anyone says, I fucking love it, dude.
The movie follows the frontman of the metal hair band Triton, and they're searching for a secluded spot to record their new album, because we know metal bands love to go deep into the woods and the caves and things like that and record records. The band, along with their glamorous girlfriends, arrive at a dilapidated recording studio deep in the woods, because why would it be anywhere else? Unbeknownst to them, this seemingly ordinary farmhouse holds a dark secret. We already told you, Satan is there. A family was also brutally murdered there years ago, leaving behind a lingering, malevolent presence. It's campy, it's stupid, you're gonna love it. Give it a spin.
Oh shit.
I told you to follow me.
This one's for the film nerds in the audience. It's actually a really great movie. That's Green Room. Now, like I said, it's time to talk about something that's actually good. Sure, this film follows a punk band, but the intensity, the drama, and the gore are all here in spades, dude. This movie was written and directed by Jeremy Saulnier and stars the late and amazingly talented Anton Yelchin. Rest in peace, my bud. The relentless violence and palpable dread are both shocking and captivating in Green Room. Unlike many horror films, this movie's characters feel real, highly relatable, and that makes the brutality even more impactful.
The film's gritty realism and, like we said, nuanced characters really just sets this apart from torture porn like Saw and Hostel. It's a horrifying experience, but that human connection is really there. The characters, both protagonists and antagonists, are complex and flawed, making the story more than just that, 0 and 1, white and black, evil versus good narrative. It's rare that movies stress us out. This is one of them. It's a masterclass. Check it out.
Well, come on! Put your hands together! I feel good all night.
Hard Rock Zombies. All right, now it's back to ridiculously stupid, but also campy B horror. This is an example of bad horror at its absolute finest. If you're expecting a blood-curdling horror film, look elsewhere. This doesn't have it. The title itself should be a clue. Instead, prepare for a hilarious, cringe-worthy experience filled with absolutely terrible acting, awful special effects, and laughable plot lines.
From aspiring rock stars to a dwarf Nazi zombie, yeah, you heard that here, and a reincarnated Adolf Hitler, movie has it all, apparently. Even the dialogue is unintentionally funny with lines like, "Are you okay?" said to a decapitated head. It's a classic example of so bad it's good horror. If you can appreciate a truly awful film, this one might just be for you. Don't expect to get scared. Expect to walk away feeling stupid.
Perfect movie for drinking beers with your friends.
Big Bass has got some weird friends.
I have got the fastest growing dick I've ever had in my entire life.
Slumber Party Massacre 2. This movie is a campy, entertaining, and undeniably bad horror film, and that's why I love it. While it may not be the best in the series, its unique brand of terrible charm makes it hard to dislike. The pacing is brisk, the actors are kind of mostly likable, and the climax is absurdly over the top. The film borrows heavily from classic horror franchises like Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, but it adds its own highly quirky twist.
The killer, spoilers alert, Tanis Illich, is a bizarre and memorable character. The plot is full of holes and inconsistencies, but it's so silly and entertaining. That stuff is just easy to overlook. We're here for a good time. We're here for the Slumber Party Massacre, the second part, and it is a very guilty pleasure for horror fans who appreciate a good bad movie. That's what this is. It's fun, it's campy, it's ultimately forgettable, but you know what? Those are great for those late night movie marathons with mates.
Love this movie so much. I grew up with movies like this, and this one is easily one of my favorites. The Gate. This 80s horror flick is a campy classic featuring heavy metal music, demonic possession, and a healthy dose of goofiness.
Oh no.
Stephen Dorff stars as Glenn, who discovers a hidden portal to the underworld in his backyard. After a series of unfortunate events, including burying the family pet, which is a classic horror trope that we all know and love, Glenn and his friend Terry unleash a horde of demonic spirits on their unsuspecting neighborhood.
The film is a humorous, though unintentionally so, commentary on the dangers of the influence of heavy music on impressionable youth. The special effects, particularly the stop motion, are actually surprisingly well done, reminiscent of classic films like Jason and the Argonauts with that classic scene with the skeletons and stuff like that. Awesome movie. From reanimated corpses to swarms of tiny demons and a giant monstrous creature, the film offers plenty of over-the-top horror with its creatures.
I don't know why it's kid-friendly either. This is like pretty scary.
Horribly burned. He has razors on his right hand.
One of the best in the series, Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors. The Dawkins theme song and music video made for this movie fucking rips, dude. Check this out. There's metal nostalgia all over this film, from the soundtrack to even how the kids fight back against Freddy. The main characters all have a made-up hero version of themselves, and the 80s camp and metal vibes, not to mention D&D influences, are all what makes this movie so goddamn great.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is really a thrilling sequel that captures the spirit of the original film. When a troubled teen named Kristen is terrorized by Freddy Krueger in her dreams, she's sent to a mental hospital. That's where she belongs. The new psychiatrist, Nancy Thompson, discovers that Freddy is haunting other patients and helps them fight back with their dream powers. There's actually some killer visual effects in here, some very clever plot twists, and the cast, really top-notch stuff here. It's easily one of the best in the franchise. If you haven't seen this one, scope it.
Rocktober Blood. This film follows a Los Angeles metal band haunted by the specter of their deceased vocalist. The movie has glaring pacing issues. The acting is absolutely horrendous. It's essentially just a campy and terribly written B horror film with a pretty goddamn killer soundtrack. I would say the soundtrack is the best part. It's a great movie for metal fans with patience for hilariously bad horror films.
So there's a band in this movie, and their vocalist, Trey Lauren, he actually delivers a pretty solid performance and lip syncs to songs by the metal band Sorcery. Kind of cool. Despite its flaws, Rocktober Blood is a decent horror metal film that stands out from the crowd. It's a must-see for fans of the genre and obviously those who love metal. Out of Black Roses, Rock and Roll Nightmare, and Hard Rock Zombies, we think that Rocktober Blood is probably the weakest, but it's absolutely worth checking out, again, on a late night binge with your friends. Check it out.
What are some of your favorite horror movies that are perfect for metalheads? Leave them down in the comments below. I'm pretty sure I've missed a few. Thumbs up the video, really helps us out.
Go with the gods, Forgemates. Trick or treat.